Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at a nor'easter that will be affecting much of the East Coast. That already has for the past day. For much of the Southeast, our worst of the impacts have been for the past day, especially on your Saturday. And it's going to keep moving up the East Coast, and then maybe bring some wintry possibilities for the interior Northeast, and maybe some wraparound snow for other parts of the Northeast after the storm, just as it is moving out. But I do want to go ahead and cover these advisories that we do have in place. So you can see in these greens, we do have our coastal flood watches, warnings, and advisories. If you are anywhere in these greens, you can see anywhere across here, you are going to be in those coastal flood warnings, watches, or advisories. Check with your local, just check your local app or anything you need to look at, local people, anything like that. If you're along any of these green areas, to see if you're under those advisories, warnings, or watches. If you're right on the coast, you're probably in those coastal flood warnings, and the more inland you go, you'll probably be in the advisories and watches. But once again, those greens, advisories, watches, and warnings for coastal flooding. Now, as we do move up into the Northeast, you can see here's where we do have these winter weather advisories in these purples. So you can see up here in northeastern regions of New York, we do have it. For much of the eastern New York, we do have it too. Into parts of around western Massachusetts, also moving into all of Vermont, also moving into northeastern Pennsylvania, northwestern regions of New Jersey, and even moving into northwestern Connecticut. And that is what we are looking at right there. So here is where we'll have some winter impacts, nothing too terrible, but we definitely do have the chance for some wintry impacts that could be coming with this system. Now, if we were to go ahead and look at the NAM 12KM model, you can see right here, let's go ahead and go back to right now, and you can see right now we don't have too much going on anywhere across the Northeast. When you think about a nor'easter, you do think it's in the Northeast, but one common misconception is a nor'easter is going to be anywhere across the eastern United States. It gets that colder northeastern wind to come down into it, so that is how it is classified a nor'easter. So it is like a coastal storm, but it has that chilly air coming from the northeast or Canada seeping down into the storm, and you have those northeastern winds, and there's, the winds are more chilly, which does make the snow. But in a nor'easter is where you do have those northeast winds in the storm, and with that cold air coming down from Canada into it with those northeastern winds. So anywhere across the eastern coast is where we could see those nor'easters, but it is just characterized by chilly northeastern winds across the eastern United States. So it doesn't have to be in the Northeast. It can be anywhere across the eastern United States. And of course, we usually do see this anywhere from the fall months, mainly the winter months, into parts of the spring months, but mainly early months. But really in your winter, you see many, and we're actually seeing one right now. And you can see right here, we have had some impacts across coastal Southeast, especially coastal North Carolina and South Carolina. We've had really gusty winds and some rains falling. And you can see as we keep going throughout today, into later into this evening, into tonight, you can see here we do have some rain around, maybe for parts of coastal mid-Atlantic. For the coastal mid-Atlantic, most of the rain staying off of the land. But we could get some coming in, and also we will have a lot of wind in a lot of these regions, especially right along those coasts. And you can see as we keep going into tomorrow morning, it gets really close to northeast, and it starts coming in. So you can see we have some showers around for the mid-Atlantic, but mainly we have it moving into the coastal northeast region. So you can see anywhere across coastal Massachusetts, you can see it, coastal Connecticut, Rhode Island, you can see it coming in. You can see we do have a little bit of a mix along eastern New York, even northeastern Pennsylvania. We do have a little bit of mix in some regions. There's some showers around. We will be cold enough for any kind of mix or snow there. And that's why we did have those winter weather advisories. But as we keep moving into tomorrow, getting into your early afternoon regions, somewhere around here, early afternoon time, here's when things do really start to ramp up for the Northeast. So you can see how we do have this mixed area around for parts of Maine, moving into parts of New Hampshire, maybe in parts of New York. You can see eastern New York mainly, maybe some snowflakes mixing in where it is cold enough for just all snow. But you can see how this mix keeps moving north throughout tomorrow afternoon. here's when we get around your mid-afternoon. You can see we do have quite a bit of rain for coastal Maine, other coastal regions of the northeast, and then a mix a little bit more inland in those pink regions. And you can see it's mainly rain for many people. We're going to have this warmer air coming in from, of course, the ocean. So, you know, that's always something we do see. If these coastal storms are really close to the coast, the rain is more inland, of course. But when it's more out, you have some of that more colder air there, and also you'll definitely get some snow with that too. That's what that does mean. So if it's farther out, we usually do see snow for most of the northeast, but this is kind of in the middle of the tracks, not too close, not too far, kind of in the middle. So really just mostly the interior northeast, and you can see that's how it does go. But mainly in the interior northeast is getting all the wintry impacts, and then the rest of the northeast, especially the coastal regions, are seeing those rain impacts, which in the wind impacts, of course, which is still really bad, and that is what a nor'easter is. That is a characteristic of it. And you can see as we get into Monday evening, that's what it's looking like. We have a mix in those pink areas, and then much of Maine and that rain. And then once we get into overnight on your Monday night, you can see we start to get some wintry precipitation coming in once we get that cold air to come in. And you can see how we do have a lot, like a huge mix across eastern New York, moving into Vermont, and then we have some snow across northern New Hampshire, and then parts of these regions of Maine, northern Maine, western Maine. We do have snow in places you can see right there, and you can see as we keep moving throughout your Monday night, we get more to come in. This is going to be around, this will probably be around your 3 a.m., 4 a.m. time frame, and you can see how we do have the snow across eastern New York, moving into Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe southern Vermont, New Hampshire. We might see some rain mixing in. But if you're in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, definitely some snow. And then western and northern regions of Maine, we do have it. And then you can see some snow coming off of the lakes, possible throughout that time too. And if we were to keep looking into your morning, on your Tuesday morning, we have snow around for Vermont, New Hampshire, and parts of northern Maine. Same thing into your afternoon on Tuesday. We have snow for northern Maine, northern Vermont, and Maine. And then we keep going into later on into your afternoon hour. We get it starting to move out. Snow showers for some across the northeast, especially the interior northeast, and some lake effect snow for people along the Great Lakes. But you can see some snow still around for northern Maine, and then it should move out by your night hours on your Tuesday night. Now, you'll still have some lake effect snow around for the people in the Great Lakes, but other than that, most of the northeast will be cleared out by by Tuesday night. Sorry, it's a little weird on these models, but Tuesday night it should be moving out, especially by your sleep. And then when you wake up on your Wednesday, it should be pretty calm, but some lake effect snow for some people, possible across parts of Pennsylvania and New York, but that'd be all the way on your Wednesday morning. Now, if we were to look at snowfall totals throughout this whole storm, you can see some of them are pretty impressive, and you gotta remember, most of this is going to be on the back of this storm, so you'll see a lot of this rain and ice before, but then you may get some snow mixing in after for many people, and we could see some pretty good amounts. So if we were to look at this, we're going to actually look at this, and you can see it's not too impressive because this last one we were looking at has sleet mixed in. So that has sleet. So of course sleet is not snow or rain, it's kind of in the middle. It's a little bit like hail, of course the ice pellets coming down. These are ice pellets coming down. You can see quite a bit of that, snow and sleet. But once we get into just snow, and this would be your snow depth with what is actually on the ground, it's not as impressive. Now, you can see we still do have some 3 to 5 inches amounts right here across parts in northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and we do have around 2 to 4 inches for many people across western Maine, and many people in Vermont and New Hampshire are seeing that too. In those lightest blues, it's 2 to 4, and then this purple's 3 to 5. We have a slight dusting in these darkest blues, so many people in that dusting, maybe an inch in some isolated regions, like here. You can see we have a few regions in the isolated inch, but you can see our biggest snows will be across here, where you might see 3 to 5 inches, and then up here, we could pick up 3 to 5 inches too. Other than that, in the lightest blues, 1 to 3 inches, and then in your darkest blue, that's going to just be a dusting, so nothing too much there. And if we were to go ahead and look at your rain accumulation, this is a different model saying it, but this is a very reliable model. So you can see this was this morning, really early this morning, this model run was out. So we may have already saw most of our rain that this is saying for the North Carolina coast, but this kind of gives you the idea of what they've been seeing. So that's something we've been looking at. But if we were to move into the northeast, you can see nothing too impressive, but okay rain's moving in. You can see New York around maybe right above between a half of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, moving into eastern Pennsylvania, maybe a half an inch to an inch. Also moving into Boston, maybe picking up an inch to an inch and a half. And then in New Hampshire, we're picking up anywhere from, somewhere between a half an inch to inch for central and southern New Hampshire, but northern New Hampshire, maybe 1/4 of an inch to an inch. And then in Vermont, it's a little limited, maybe up to 1/4 of an inch of rain. And then you can see into Maine. Most of Maine is anywhere anywhere from a half an inch to an inch of rain. So nothing too impressive, but some places could be getting an inch to maybe an inch and a half for some people, maybe 2 inches. Right on coastal Massachusetts, you can see right here, we might pick up maybe around 2 inches for some. In these Nantucket regions, as many people do know, you can see Nantucket right here. Could get close to maybe 1 to 2 inches. Boston, 1 to maybe 1.5 inches. So that's what we're looking at. Now, if we were to look at your wind gusts, so these are not your sustained winds, but these are your wind gusts. You can see they have been getting battered by these winds across a lot of coastal North Carolina and coastal South Carolina. And you can see some of the totals. Some of the wind gusts have been actually pretty high. And we do actually have 50 mile per hour on the Outer Banks right now with those wind gusts. But you can see earlier on, really early this morning around 1 a.m., right off the coast, we had 76 mile an hour winds. And at times, those wind gusts, as we were just talking about, these are wind gusts, could have moved in, and they actually did move in to some people. And some people saw 70 plus mile per hour wind gusts. And you can see right here on the coast, right there on the edge of the coast, we do have 68 mile per hour wind gusts at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. So this was very early this morning. And you can see we've had some pretty big wind gusts throughout the whole day, many power outages. And we have saw rains that have moved in too. We have saw some rain across the coastal Carolinas. But as we do move up throughout tonight, you can see these winds do start to back off a little bit. But then we do see it move into a lot of these regions. And you can see anywhere from 20 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts across much of the mid-Atlantic coastal regions and moving into parts of the northeast coastal regions. But it'll mainly be around here where we do have our 20 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts around your midnight time frame tonight. Now, if we were to look at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, you can see things do really start to ramp up for many. 29 mile per hour wind gusts in Boston, Hartford, Connecticut, about the same. New York, 25 miles an hour. But you can see around Nantucket, we do have 50 mile per hour wind gusts. And you can see for many people in coastal Massachusetts, we do see that. And then if we were to move into, let's say if we move into 3 p.m. tomorrow when many people are getting out of school, some people might not have school. But if you are in school, here are some of your wind gusts that you could be seeing on the way out. And you can see 20 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts for many of these regions across parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York City, Rhode Island. If I didn't say Connecticut, of course Connecticut, as we do see right there, but I'm pretty sure I already did. And then southern New Hampshire. And if we were to keep moving up in the coastal Maine, you can see some of these places getting pretty high up on very coastal Maine, almost 50 miles an hour, and then 20 to 40 a little bit more inland. And if we were to keep looking into Tuesday at 3 a.m., you can see things do really start to back off for many people. But this is when we could have some of that snow and mix around for many people across the northeast, especially the interior northeast. This has quite a bit across eastern New York. But that would move out. The wind gusts will be moving out probably around the worst of the winds will be moving out for many by your Tuesday night. But for parts of Maine, it could stay around until sometime on your Wednesday. But especially by 6 a.m. Wednesday, it should be gone. So that's not too much to worry about. But maybe lingering around for your Tuesday. But by your Wednesday morning, it should be gone. But mainly sometime getting into your afternoon on your Tuesday, it should be out of here. We should have much of these bad wind gusts out for many people across the northeast. And it should be looking good for many. Now, if we were to look at this model's snowfall totals, you can see it's a little bit of a different story, but not too much off of what we were looking at. You can see how this brings more of those totals in the northeastern Pennsylvania, and you can see this has about 6 inches for some people. Now, you do have to remember this is saying new snow. Not all of this could reach, not all this could reach the ground, or once it hits the ground, it could melt. But this is what could be falling, but this does not mean this is what you could see on the ground. And here are some of your totals, and you can see they're okay, impressive for many people, and it has some of your biggest totals across northeastern Pennsylvania, and then parts of Maine. So that is a little bit of a different look of what we were looking at here. So definitely do keep your eye out on that, what could happen. But of course, we always do need to trust the European model a little bit more. So definitely watch out for that. And if we were to look at another forecast for it, if we were to go to home on this, I do want to show you what some other people are thinking with the snowfall totals. So here's Pivotal Weather. I have been using this quite a bit. It is just a really good thing to use. I've been using it a lot lately, and if I can find it, I'm not sure if they do have it on here anymore. They might. We'll see, but they're supposed to, last time I did check, they did have some snowfall totals that could be coming, but actually it looks like they've gotten rid of it, but here it is actually. So if we were to look right here over the next 48 hours, you can see how this does have the snowfall mainly for many of these regions. So these are the regions where it's most likely to have our biggest snowfalls. But watch out if you're anywhere across here, because you will be having some snow around, and just watch your snow totals as you do go throughout this storm. Now, I did want to look at one more thing. We're going to look at these ice totals, because if you do recall, we did actually have some pretty big, we did have quite a bit of ice in place, so I do want to show some ice totals. We never really do look at this, but we are going to start doing it, because it's starting to get more and more likely for many people with these winter storms, because we are seeing more of them. And if we were to actually look at this, you can see how this does have some pretty impressive freezing, ice totals, freezing rain. And you can see, even if it looks like it's raining with freezing rain, if the surface is below zero, the surface, it can freeze and cause really slick conditions. So you can see right here, for parts of Vermont, we have anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch of ice. And you can see as it keeps moving throughout central Maine, we have the same deal, 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice. So these regions is where I do have the worst concern for ice. 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice could fall. And then anywhere else, this be 1/10 of an inch to maybe a 1/4 of an inch, but mainly 1/10 of an inch in these lightest pinks. So that is what we were looking at. But yeah, guys, I hope y'all did enjoy today's video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. This will be a pretty significant nor'easter for many people. Pretty big snowfall totals for some people, especially the interior northeast. Watch out if you're in eastern Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, or eastern New York. Definitely do watch out for some snow there, and also watch out for your snow anywhere in these regions. And if we look back at it, it did actually have some snow totals for some of you in northeastern Pennsylvania and eastern, for eastern New York, it did have some bigger totals. So watch out if you're in any of these regions, but watch out for snow if you're anywhere in these regions. You could definitely be picking some up. But if you're not in the snow, watch out for rain and wind, because that will be pretty bad too. So definitely do watch out. There are huge impacts from much of the northeast. If it's snow, freezing rain, if it's going to be just rain and wind, you have a lot of big impacts that we will be seeing. So once again, if y'all did enjoy today's video, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.